Hello everyone, it's been a minute since we've done a Wolfpack Wednesday. Actually, it's now number 21 and the very first one we've done for 2024. So I have definitely been lagging on this. Sorry about that. But here we are, and I hope you all don't mind us chilling for a bit for this video as we talk about some of my most anticipated games, yet another long-awaited video that has been in the works for a little too long. So these are my top 5 most anticipated games for 2024. Starting with number 5, and that is Ready Set Bet, the High Roller Edition. Now, if you've seen my top 10 list from over here, you know that this was one of my favorite games to play back in 2022. Ready Set Bet is one of my favorite party games, and they are making some of the most incredible upgrades, some very much needed upgrades too for this game, because if you play with a huge group of people, it's really hard to move those horses and be super animated without knocking everything over. It's so easy to just make it a complete chaotic mess. So I am so glad that they're doing a High Roller Premium Edition. The mat itself, I think, is going to be neoprene from what I've seen, and it's going to be huge. It's like an extra large version, which I would expect if they're calling it a High Roller Edition. And I'm assuming, I would hope, that they're also doing some chips too, because I've been using the poker chips from Roxy as a substitute for playing Ready Set Bet. So in case you're not familiar with that game, definitely check out my video over there. But basically how it works is you can use an app or you can have someone be the announcer, and you're having these horses race along the track. You roll a die, and whatever number that die rolls, and that's the horse that moves along. And you're pretty much betting on a horse, and it's really, really fun. It's absolutely chaotic and super eventful. That game just brings out so many great fun family memories. So I'm stoked for that to be my number 5 most anticipated game of this year. Now, moving on to number 4. So I know I've been talking about Lorcana for a bit, and then I didn't really get into it because it was hard to get the cards. And then now Dennis, you're watching this, thank you so much. One of my friends gave me a bunch of different starter packs, so I'm really excited to dive into that soon. But in the meantime, there is another trading card game. It's like the year of trading card games. Well, we got Star Wars Unlimited, which is the game I'm talking about right now. And we have Lorcana, and we have, was it the one from Thundergriff Games, Ether Stone? I think that one. And then Altered. It's like 4 different TCGs in a year. It's crazy. But Star Wars, huge fan of Star Wars. We're actually watching The Mandalorian right now, so I'm like super back into it. And I heard them announce a trading card game. Actually, Bond was the one who told me about this trading card game because she got to actually play it through at a convention that she went to, I think. And it looks super fun. And the fact that there's also holofoil. I hope that they make holofoil lightsabers too in this TCG. But in this TCG, how it generally works is that you start off with like a base card, I think. And then you're playing a card, and units can be played. The really cool part is that you can have ground units, and then you can have units that are in space. Ultimately, your goal is to destroy that person's base. And the resources that you spend, you can actually play from your hand, kind of like Magic and kind of like Pokemon. So I love that there is this kind of fusion of many classic TCGs all into one, and then they throw on Star Wars onto that. So I see some elements of Magic and Pokemon in there. I definitely see Yu-Gi-Oh there because you are defending your base. You're going to attack mode with your monsters, or in this case, characters. And I even saw, what is it, like Luke's lightsaber? That's gonna be crazy, right? Luke's lightsaber as like an equip Magic card. If you ever played Yu-Gi-Oh, you equip this to one of your characters, and then you can like fight with them and then upgrade them too. So as soon as they told me that, I was all on board. As soon as like Bonds mentioned it to me, I went like into more of a rabbit hole, and I cannot wait to buy my first starter deck and some collectible cards too. They better make holofoil lightsabers for this. I'm telling you, it would be a huge miss if those lightsaber equip cards are not holofoil. Like, can you imagine a freaking orange holofoil card lightsaber and then like a black lightsaber? It's gonna be like the One Ring for Magic. But yeah, Star Wars Unlimited is my number 4 most anticipated game. Moving on to number 3 now. Okay, when you hear the next 3, I swear to you, I did not do this intentionally. Okay, it just happened, and I didn't realize it until like I looked back on my list right before I hit record here, and I'm like, yo, these top 3 look a little too familiar. So number 3 is Aquatica, and that is the expansion, the second expansion to Aquatica. And I don't know too much about it because it hasn't really been fully announced. I just saw that there are mini coral reef miniatures, okay? And they look so cool. You all know how much I love Aquatica. This game has never went down for me. It has constantly just gone up the entire time, still to this day. And I cannot wait for the expansions. Cold Waters was cool. I think that expansion was chill. Like, I'll play with it, I'll play without it. Like, I'm kind of neutral about that one just because you're adding on an extra tribe. And I like the look of like the white mantas. I think that's cool, but I'm really excited about what Coral Reefs is going to do, especially since you're introducing new minis now. Then that means that the gameplay is definitely going to have a huge change, and I'm very, very excited for that. And there's also, I don't know if this is like public knowledge, but Robert, the president of Arcane Wonders, did announce this on his stream with Bree and Benita, and I'm assuming it's public knowledge since it was announced there, but I would just link it just to be safe. I'll just link it down below. And they also announced some more information about Aquatica too, which is so freaking cool. And yeah, sign me up for anything Aquatica related. So I cannot wait for that and to hear more about some Aquatica news. So that right there is my number 3. Number 2, like I said, it's not going to be a surprise, right? Because these are some of my top 5 board games of all time, and now they're getting sequels-ish, or at least they're being produced by the same publisher. So number 2 is Arcs by Leder Games, because, you know, Root is one of my top 5 games of all time, and now we have Arcs. So Arcs I did play, but I heard that there have been many changes to Arcs since then. Now, Arcs, since it was first announced, has had some major changes, but from what I remember about it, it's pretty much an opera in space. Like, imagine Root in space, Root and Fort in space, because you still have that follow the leader mechanic in Fort, and then it still has the warring aspect of Root, but then everything is happening in space. From what I remember about Arcs is that there are no asymmetric factions, but the way you build out your engine / tableau, the way you build that out, it makes you asymmetric, which I'm totally fine with. Like, that's super okay with me. But the best thing about Arcs from before that I remember is that you get to choose different dice to collect as you're fighting in space. So when you have different ships out, depending on how many ships that you have there, you can choose the amount of dice. Now, what game does this sound like to you? It sounds like Oathsworn for me. But Leder put their own spin on it, because in Oathsworn, you can choose however many battle dice you want. And I think, as simple as that sounds, it's incredibly fun. But then for Arcs, you can choose whatever dice you want, but the number of dice that you get to choose depends on how many ships that you have in that area. So if I have 3 ships there, then I can choose one of the assault dice. So there are assault dice which can hurt you, but will also hurt them a lot more than the other 2 dice. The second die is the bombard dice. This is more defensive. Think about this as like slow damage. And then you have the raid dice where you can steal different cards. So I love the fact that you can choose the different types of dice in battle. And for me, when I was playing with Sam and Benita, it was just full on assault dice all the way. So that didn't work out for me so well. And yeah, anyways, I'll still be playing that way because it's just way too fun to not be playing hyper aggressive. And then lastly, last but not least, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to see if you can guess what my number 1 most anticipated game is this year, because I apparently am an open book, and I have accepted that. I've come to accept that. And I already know that you know what is my number 1 most anticipated game of this year. So if you do, go ahead and let me know down in the comments below, because it won't be a surprise, okay? Number 1 most anticipated game this year is Andromeda's Edge. Dwellings, my number 1 favorite game of all time. The sequel to that, also in space. Apparently every game is in space, and it's crazy because I don't even like space games, yet the best games from my favorite publishers, they're all making space-themed games. We have 3 space-themed games here on this one list alone, right? Star Wars, and we have Arcs, and we have Andromeda's Edge, all taking place in space. And I'm like much more of a fantasy-themed person, but I'm honestly open to it because these games are super, super fun, and I feel like my realm of space-themed games is growing and expanding as my favorite publishers are also making games that are all catered towards space, which I'm okay with, you know? The reason why I'm so excited about this game is that it takes the battle mechanisms in Dwellings, and it does improve on it a lot, but that doesn't mean that you can't have both. Like for me, I need to have both. I need to have Dwellings, and I need to have Andromeda. This was like my most asked question ever on my channel, which was like, Tim, what are you gonna back? Which game would you rather have, Andromeda or Dwellings? And still right now, I need to have both because there's just room to have both on your table. Figuratively, there's room to have both on your table. Although I did fit both in that review video that I did too, so beside the point. In Andromeda, you are taking your ship and you're placing it into like 5 different areas, and they do different things. just like Dwellings. So like if you place it on one particular, I forget already, it's been so long, but like if you place it on one particular, we'll call it a station. If you place it on one particular space station, then you can probably recruit other types of ships, or you can get upgrades for your ships and stuff like that, right? Exactly like Dwellings, where if you place it on like the Mage Tower, then you can change out your cards, or you can recruit different people from recruiting in the portal. So the gameplay, similar, worker placement, you place a ship out and you do the thing that it's on, or you bring them all back. But the part that I'm most excited about for Andromeda is the raiders look absolutely insane. And I feel like the rewards that you get from raiders and everything, and just your interaction with raiders, is way more interactive than it was for monsters in Dwellings. And in Dwellings, they're already rushing you as it is, so there is a lot of interaction already. But I feel like raiders are gonna put a nice new spin on that. And then the combat. Like, I love being able to target ships from far away and like shooting lasers at them from across the galaxy, and just going into hyper light speed and traveling really fast. There are just way too many amazing things happening in Andromeda. And if you align with my gaming tastes at all on my channel, then this is a game that you clearly do not want to miss, because this is our kind of game. You know, like Andromeda, that's us. That's a game for us to enjoy. So a little side note too, I think they're planning to debut Andromeda at Essen, and Essen is like the one convention that I'm gonna try to make it to this year. Probably won't make it to the other ones because, well, they're really expensive. Like Gen Con's super expensive, Gamma's super expensive, and everything's just very crazily priced. But if I can make it to one convention this year, I really want to make it to Essen, because, well, Andromeda's gonna be debuting there, and I really want to meet a lot of publishers I've been talking to over at Essen too, and just, I mean, being able to travel to Germany, like, that's super fun. So with that said, I hope you all enjoyed this top 5 gaming list. If I missed any board games, go and let me know down in the comments below. What are you most excited for? Are we all in for Team Andromeda, or are we all in for Team something else? Whatever it is, I definitely want to know, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts about that. If you made it here to the very end, comment space, because that is the year of 2024. Everything's happening in space. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you all in the next one.